But I think that in this world, you have to fight for your place in the world. You can't wait for things to be handed over to you. If you have interest in something and you have been put in that position, you can show your value. And it starts from the little things, right? Speaking to someone on your team to like, oh, can I study you for a week? Can I just shadow you? Someone sees that you're willing to learn, it's easier for them to pull you in. But if you're sitting on your desk and waiting to be called, you're going to keep waiting till you're called. But if you make a move, things can move faster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What I Do for Work, the podcast for ambitious people who want to build the careers of their dreams. I'm Anita Patrick, and throughout the series, I'll be speaking with hardworking people in diverse careers about the work they do, what it entails, and the kind of efforts, sacrifices, mentality, and everything in between it took to get them to where they are now. Today, I have Kafilat Awataya. She is a brand strategist and founder of the Yellow Company, a creative consultancy and management firm, right? And that operates at the intersection of culture and commerce. And she's worked for some of your favorite luxury and fashion brands like Gatekeeping, Remy Martin, Ashley's, and I'll just, let her talk to you all about it. So welcome, Kafila. Please tell us what you do for work.
Hi everyone, my name is Kafilat Awutayo. Here's what I do for work. I am a business strategist. I like to say that I help brands and people build equity, build value, identify their value. And yeah, I've been doing this with my company called the Yellow Company. We service both corporates and very passionate about the creative economy. So yeah, that's it.
Different places strategy meant different things. And people, when they say they're brand strategists, their work is focused on the visual aspect, the logo. It can be very diverse too from your own perspective. Tell me what that's more like. Give us more detail.
For me, brand strategy goes from operations, like from your internal team, to how you show up offline or to your customers, to your stakeholders. So I like to look at it from an end-to-end perspective. And for me, I'm very big on culture. If your people love what they do, if the internal is great, then, there's very little work that you have to do externally. So when I think about brand strategy, I think from operations to marketing to comms, everything that sort of makes a business function, just making sure that you're thinking about each aspect and, you know, bringing that bridge and yeah, together to make something out of it, really.
Okay, so when you're considering all these aspects from operations to marketing to internal comms and external comms, what is your end goal?
My end goal, I would say building equity for a business. And that equity goes from like perception to brand love to very big on like employee relations to your people inside, right? The end goal is making sure that everybody, all your stakeholders feel heard, making sure that you're communicating with them and you're also opening that room for dialogue.
So you're pretty much just making sure that all the wheels are turning right. So the brand is perceived way that works in their favor from the inside out, right?
Outside,
Does
yes,
that make
yeah.
sense? Okay, so I looked at your bio. And you mentioned you started as a social media manager. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you go from social media manager to brand strategist? Was that a path that you intentionally set out for yourself, or was it something you stumbled upon?
Yes, so I've always known what I wanted, and I had my rude awakening from watching an advertisement, a Skybank ad, like the popular "I wish I had a dream." I remember, do you know that ad? I remember being a child and just being fascinated and just loving the ad so much. Although I didn't understand that this was advertising, this was marketing, I just loved the advert. And I started watching advertisements with a different lens from there on. Every time I would see an ad, I would imagine like what was the brief. I mean, obviously I didn't know that was the term, but I would imagine what did these people tell whoever created this ad for them to come up with this. So that's how I would watch ads, and from there, I would go into music videos and I was like, this song doesn't match this video. I started engrossing myself in that world and on trying to understand why, things are being communicated visually or even with the words. Yeah, so I would say that was like the beginning for me. Got to like right now I watch TV on mute. That's how bad it is for me because I want to create that world in my head and try and understand body language and all of that. So I went from loving advertisement to saying, oh, okay, there's something here. And then I remember wanting to go to uni and telling my dad I wanted to study English. Like I had everything mapped. This was me at 16, trying to convince my dad, Daddy, I need to study English so I understand language, I understand how to use words. And when I'm done, I want to get a master's in advertising. And my dad was like, huh? And I went to private uni. So it was like, there's no way I'm paying private school fees for you to learn the English you're already speaking so well. It didn't make sense to him. Like everyone was trying to tell me, oh, why don't you like study mass comm and all of that? But I also had a very interesting childhood. When I was in secondary school, I would say I wasn't like the most brilliant. And then something happened in my school and I had to change schools. And then I go to this new school. I had the best English teacher. Shout out to Miss Etienne. And she sort of discovered that I was good with words. She would make me write essays, read my essays to the class. And that's when I discovered that, oh, wow, actually, I'm good at something. That was like the first time I realized I was good at something. So I just went with that vision. I'm studying English in school. And she also studied English. So she sort of talked me through that roadmap of you can work anywhere. All companies have communication departments. So this was me at 16 building my world already. So I did exactly that. I ended up studying English, getting a master's in advertisement and marketing, and then coming in like the industry. Obviously, then honestly, it's been a very interesting journey because I came back to Nigeria from my master's, trying to apply for jobs. And like the agencies I went, they're like, you're sort of overqualified, but you're not qualified because you haven't worked in the industry, but you have a master's degree. So I had to start as an intern. Like this is me earning the littlest coins as a master's degree holder because I really knew what I wanted, right? So yeah, I started off at Pulse when Pulse was still Pulse. Very interesting. Understanding how to like communicate with people in the digital space, seeing the reaction, like putting out a post, seeing how people interact with that and knowing how to follow up. So I sort of learned that people communication behaviors at the beginning of the whole digital marketing boom, right? I got I would say biggest start with Anacool, which is like one of the biggest marketing agencies. And the good thing about Anacool is they were very strategy driven. Although I was a social media manager, but you would work with like the entire team. You have your own digital marketing team, you have your own design team, you have your own strategy team. So everybody worked together like that. And it sort of enriched me because I'm working and learning from everybody else. Yeah. So when you're like hyper focused on something like I was, and I saw a vision and I've been running with it. You meet people within your field that can talk you through things, opportunities. So yeah, that's how I've gone from, social media. And although I started off saying I wanted to work in advertising, I realized the comp space is very wide. I ended up hyper focusing on PR. That's even like another conversation, discovering PR. I was like, wow, why is it that people bring PR at the end of the conversation? If PR is supposed to be talking to your customers directly, shouldn't they be at the strategy table telling you, okay, this is what the consumers might like, So I started like, oh, I think PR should be up there. I need to understand what they do there. Also in a career, in that line. Although I've always known I wanted to own my agency, I didn't know how, but also knew that I had to serve. I had to go through all of the learning processes, understanding how to run a business, not just learning how to do your work, to put structures for your business. But yeah, it's been a really long journey that I picked up a lot of things from, the social media manager to handling being a lead on an account and then now starting off my own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned so many things
Mhm.
that I found it interesting. Saying you wanted to study English. When you mentioned that, I was like, wow, how bold.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was just running.
It's just that, well, we are Nigerians, yeah. But it also speaks to the kind of influence that teachers have on us. So I think people underrate that. You mentioned like going from a school and being in a position or in a place where you felt like you were not smart enough,
Mm,
and then now discovering this thing that you're receiving so much praise for, and that's been nurtured, it must have felt so good to you. Like,
yes.
I guess I'm not. Yeah, I guess this is something
I
like I'm
know
really good at.
you.
But you also mentioned you did your master's immediately after your undergrad.
Yes. I
Oh,
served, I mean,
okay.
I did like the 1 year service year. I feel like I won't advise that. I have no regrets, but I won't advise that. I think that there are 2 points where a person should probably take a gap year. When you're done with secondary school, I don't think that a child should go into university straight. I think that you should take a year to sort of discover your passions, take vocational courses, things that interest you, then go into the university. And if you don't do that at that point, maybe when you're done with university, before you take on a second degree, I think that it would be great to gain some like experience or do something that you love so that you're not going into your industry as a newbie. Because I like to call myself a late bloomer. But stop saying that because I'm grateful for it because now that I sort of feel like I'm ready to step out into the world, I'm very knowledgeable. I have the experience to sort of match anything that I might face. But if anybody asks, I would say, maybe take a year to understand what you like and gain some work experience in that field before pursuing a master's degree. Yeah.
I share similar sentiment because sometimes we pick things because it's the first thing available to us, and might not have enough clarity
Clarity.
and enough know-how to enter into the job market. But I also recognize that it might not be possible for a lot of people, especially if you school here with the strikes and everything.
Mhm.
Taking a gap year on top of that, it might feel like, oh, I don't really have all the time to do
Your
all of
gap
that, you
year could
understand?
be your
But
gap
then
year.
I feel like internships are perhaps a good way to sort of
Mhm, mhm.
balance
Yeah.
that. And then the thing is that I also hear people talk about, doing internships, but they're not being given actual work to do. So, that's actually something that needs to be solved.
Yes, you're right. You do get into some internships where you're not fully utilized. But I think that in this world, you have to fight for your place in the world. You can't wait for things to be handed over to you. If you have interest in something and you have been put in that position, you can show your value. And it starts from the little things, right? Speaking to someone on your team, she's like, oh, can I study you for a week? Can I just shadow you? One sees that you're willing to learn, it's easier for them to pull you in. But if you're sitting on your desk and waiting to be called, you're going to keep waiting till you're called. But if you make a move, things can move faster. So while I do agree with you, I think it's very important to have high agency as well and fight for yourself.
I completely agree with that. I mean, you've already been given this opportunity, so it makes sense for you to capitalize on that
Yes.
opportunity. I remember I did have an intern. I wouldn't even say that she wanted to work in my department, to be honest, but there was just an available slot. I mean, I know that there was this part of her that just felt like, okay, I guess I have an internship, so yeah, I'm doing this internship. But I mean, I guess maybe it's because I just recognized that, okay, you know what, let me just give her something to do. I wanted to marry way to involve her, and even though I did not think that she actually wanted to do the sort of work that my department offered, I just sort of like started training her on professional things like how to write an email and things like that. But yeah, I do recognize that whenever you find yourself, like even if you're being put in a department, for example, where maybe it's not really something you want to do, there's still so many things you could learn because no knowledge is
Yeah.
ever wasted, really.
It's so easy to also blame a young child that doesn't know what to do in an intern or an office situation. But I think that even the businesses are complicit. Like if you are gonna open up an avenue for interns to come in, then you should have a structure that sort of enriches them as well. Like putting those things in place. Even if it's as small as a think tank session for the interns, let them sit down, come up with their own passion projects, let them do things. So I think it's both ways.
Yeah, it does. Oh, okay. So I mean, you mentioned that you knew you wanted to own your agency. How early did you know that?
So the name Yellow is inspired by Coldplay. Coldplay has a song called Yellow. And I remember during my service year, I had this friend that we used to share music. And called me, was like, Kafi, I heard the song, I'm coming to play it for you. And then he comes to my house and then he plays Yellow for me. And it was so beautiful. Like the first thing I said is, when I start up a business, I'm going to name my business Yellow. Literally, this is me in my NYC uniform. I have a very visual memory. In my NYC uniform, in my parents' living room, like having this conversation with this person. Fast forward to like years later, maybe 3, 4 years later, when I was trying to register my company, I was speaking to the lawyer and the lawyer was like, oh, that name is taken. So I gave him a different name. And I remember getting my company documents and I was like, this is not my company. And I called him. I was like, lawyer Yemi, sorry, you have to register a new This is not what I want. Yeah, so that was like the early stages. And then going to my master's, I just talking to my friends about what I wanted to do and the belief that they had in me. You know, when people are looking at you, it's like, wow, so amazing. Like that also gave me the confidence. And they were like, oh, so that means you're trying to have an agency. I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm trying to run an agency. I didn't know. I was just saying that is what I want to do. Yeah, so I would say as early as when I finished school and while I was getting my master's done, I was conceptualizing the idea.
That did that influence the kind of places you wanted to work at?
Yeah, definitely did. But I would say that I have a very interesting background from my family background. And I think in hindsight, it makes sense. I remember when I was like job hunting then and I went to this interview and I was so nervous. This was like in the early stages. So the person interviewing me was like, you know what, let's take a minute. And he asked me about my life, my family, and something that I kept on talking about, which I do talk about, is my mom and my grandma because they have a creative background. My mama was the first woman in Shomolu to own a branding shop, you know, and my mom has taken over their business. So they work in branding, marketing. And in hindsight, I just feel like I am stepping into my destiny. So yeah, I have that background. Like I wanted to work in marketing. I have a family business that sort of already does that. And literally I stepped into that position. But yes, it did influence the sort of places I wanted to work because in my head, I'm like, okay, even though I want to have my agency, I still want to bring my family business along with it and sort of make it murder and whatever they're doing in today's times, right? So I want to continue the legacy that my grandma started, which my mom is currently doing.
Or making the switch from being an employee to owning your agency. How did you prepare for that?
So I've always done stuff on the side. While I had my 9 to 5s, I would consult for people on the side, just yeah, support my friends' projects. It wasn't really about making money, but building that portfolio for me to eventually start pitching. But how did I officially make that switch? I would say I was part of the great resignation era from the COVID times. Yeah. I think I was like calling it that term, like the great resignation. And I remember then I was working at Redrick. Shout out to Ijoma. A lot of the things that I learned from her, still learning from her. I really admire her work ethic and, you know, what she's done. I remember having that conversation with her because we used to have like all these, I think, quarterly sessions where you just talk about what you've done. And I didn't plan to have that conversation, although I'd been playing with it. But then she's having this conversation with me, talking to me about my plans. And then I'm like, yeah, so I think I want to quit at the end of the year. It was so unplanned. I wouldn't lie to you. And she was like, oh, okay, all right, understandable. And something that she said that stays with me is it's great for you to explore like everything. And if you ever feel the need to like you want to come back, doors are always open. So that sort of gave me a bit of confidence to take that step. Now that didn't happen until like 3 months later. And I would say that something that gave me courage was that I was chasing this client and everything had even clicked. And I was like, oh yeah, at least I have my first client. I'll be fine. I remember I just paid rent and I was calculating in my head, okay, after paying rent, maybe I'll have like 150K left in my account. That should take me somewhere. But if I tell you that that client till today, we didn't do the work till today. Yeah. So I quit and I literally didn't have anything to do. I was just, you know, but I would talk to my friends about it. Yeah, I was literally floating for like 2 months with nothing to do. I mean, I would say nothing because obviously I was developing myself, but not active clients. And I would talk to my friends about them. It was also good that I was doing some work before so people could already see what I've done. And honestly, the thing that they say about networking with your peers, a lot of the things that I've done like to date is because of the people that surround me, that have spoken about me, that have pulled me into their own projects. I have had like some people on their higher ups to do that for me, but I would say the strength that I've gotten in the last couple of years really came from my peers. Yeah, so that was how it started. I think a friend had now recommended me to his dad's business, and then I started managing social media. I was even off from what I wanted to do. But the good thing, and something I always say, is that because of all of the roles I've had to fill and all of the projects I've worked in, you always end up getting more from me. So even if I was doing social media, I would be talking to you about sales. I'll be talking to you about marketing. Like I've always thought about the brands in a holistical way. That's how I operate. So from doing social media, I started doing email marketing. I would do just pick up things that can just sustain me. And to me, I didn't realize that that was me building my business. And by the time I would want to start putting my company deck together, it made sense. And I'm like, oh, wow, I can offer the service, and just understanding what an agency now means. It's not really just one thing when you support your clients, it's strategic insights, it's a lot of things that, and in the end, like it just helped me to fit into so many spaces. But yeah, that's literally how it started and how it's going.
I've always considered the bulk of what you do, brand strategy, creative talent management. I've always considered it to be some kind of high gatekeeping sort of sector. It feels dog eat dog at times. So how did you navigate that? I mean, I don't know if you share the same sentiments.
I wouldn't say that I share the same sentiments fully. I think with every industry, in every space, they are gatekeepers. But I think with the bulk of the work that I do, which is also why I've tried to expand my services and the work that I do, is that it's not a lot of businesses that can afford to keep an agency. There are not a lot of opportunities for people to actually explore in that space. If you want to be niche, say, oh, I'm just a PR person, how many people can actually afford PR? People think it's not the most important thing. So do I need to put money into there? Other things that they're considering. So I really think about it from that space. And which is why, like, for me, I always think about value add. What can you do that everybody else is not doing? Still, managing expectations, because you don't want to promise what you can't do, but really giving myself that knowledge and like, okay, if I'm supposed to be working on strategy for this person, what are the loopholes? I'm a loopholes girl. Like if I'm interested in a brand that I want to work with, I look out for a loophole, or I look out for something that I can do better, or something I can pitch. It might not necessarily pan out, but it gives you room and it makes an interesting pitch. Like somebody like, okay, interesting. I see where this person is coming from. They can see your thought process. And from there, a different opportunity is what, that could eventually manifest. So yeah, while I agree that they are gatekeepers, I think also the economy doesn't really allow people are thinking about their marketing spend. It's how I see traditional media or even media in general. Before, print used to be, although print is still one of the most expensive form of media, but before it was like the top, everybody wanted to do that, but it's so expensive to keep a media house, to pay journalists, people, advertisers. There's so much work that needs to be done, and people are not really putting money into it. So it sort of limits the opportunity available. The people that have their leg in, they want to keep it because in the end it's a business. So yeah, everybody's, trying to grab what they can, and it's not a lot if you're just looking in one dimension.
I understand. It requires a lot of perseverance.
I am a shy person. I didn't start off being very outspoken. Even till now, I struggle with it because I'm like, Kafi, the line of work that you do, you shouldn't even say this. Like, nobody should hear it, right? So I've had to like force myself to come out of that shell. And I think that when you also even share your vision with people, people can, open up opportunities. So it's hard, but you keep trying every day. And it's also like a philosophy that I have in my life. You wake up every day and try your best. It's something that you have to do till you die. Even the rich people, the billionaires, they're still thinking through strategies on a daily basis. They need to sustain their businesses and their empires. So I don't think it gets easier. You just understand the flow, but it's constant work that you have to do regardless.
Yeah. You mentioned brand strategy
Mm.
being about, to summarize, like building equity from the inside out and everything. And I'm aware that a lot of people do not consider it to be important. A lot of people or well businesses may not consider it to be as important as sales, for example. So what do you say to people like that?
Honestly, I try to stay away from them. Straight up. I try to stay away from, yes, because like work is already hard enough. And I think that if you don't recognize the value, I mean, even the people that recognize the value, there's still a lot of toasting. I like to call it that. You still have to help them see reason. But I think what helps is also putting some metrics into whatever you're doing. So it's not enough to pitch to these people and say, I want to do this. Da, 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 da. You also need to back it up and say, these are the results that I can get you. This is where I can take you from point A to B. These are the sort of growth metrics that we're looking at, like just being clear with the expectations and also just thinking about their needs, right? Like you can have this great vision for this brand, but is that what they need? Because marketing too can be very flashy, right? We can be focused on the campaigns and all of that. It's not about using the next big influencer or creating the next flashy content. What I'm really looking at is your bottom line, and this is how I can get it from A too. So that's something that helps me. And just data with marketing these days, like it's more important. But I think when I started, it wasn't something that we really used to take seriously. Backing the work that you do, your AI tools, measuring, showing the clients, these are the numbers. We'll see where we started from, being open to like tweaking things. Oh, this is what we did. This didn't work. Or, oh, this thing that we did, it worked. Or I think we should double down on it, and just being able to move and listen and follow. Because before I even started to form my business, like the core for me is people. I love people and I love to do things that brings them joy and causes a reaction. So understanding the people that you're also trying to speak to and knowing how to speak to them, client wants to make money. So how can you help them make money? Even with like PR, which is something I'm really focused on too. We say that PR is not a sales engine, right? Which is understandable. And that's why I think also it's great to collaborate with like your friend. If that's your core, bring in somebody else that does sales and see how you both can come up with a strategy that addresses both the marketing aspect of it, the visibility aspect of it, and the drive to store. This is how we are going to make money. It's like just being able to offer more, like understand, like the industry is very volatile. I just always believe in being able to give your client more than that they're expecting, and it doesn't always have to come from you have collaborators, same people, your peers. You guys can make something bigger than it's initially started off from. So
Yeah.
that's how I like to approach it, really.
Finding that balance between wanting to be extravagant and
Creativity
doing
and
things
commerce, I
professionally,
would
but
say. That's what I
I
mean.
like that because I also, find myself in that middle ground. Like, oh yes, I want to do something very creative, but at the end of the day, I really like to look into the data.
One of the like framing the vision for my company is creativity and commerce. Like it can work hand in hand because creatives too need to survive. It's not everything is vibes. You also want to build a legacy. You want to build things for yourself. So just finding that middle ground, I think, is very important. It's something that I'm also trying to hack. I haven't hacked it just yet, but I see the potential.
That's all right. It's a journey. But
Yeah.
I also like that you say that you stay away from people. You stay away from brands that don't see the important. Because yeah, even with brands that see the important, there's still a lot of casualty that happens with
Yeah.
them. So did that influence the sort of the sector you work with? Cause looking at your profile, you mentioned luxury, like luxury brands. Cause I know that those. I mean, when you look at the advertising space, really, those are the kind of people that actually take their advertising seriously. And there are certain sectors where you kind of have to fight it. So did that influence this sort of sector focus your efforts on?
Not really, I would say, because I think that when you're starting off, you're grasping for whatever you can get. I've just been fortunate, I would say, and it also helps with like the sort of work I'd done before. Because or when you've done something, it's easier for you to pitch for you to do something else within that line. But there are also areas I wouldn't go to. I don't think I'm a tech babe. Like when all the tech boom was happening, my friends switched. I tried because also you don't want to be left behind. But I'm just like, no, this is not really my thing. Let me just stick to my bag, right?
I really want you to talk more about your company, about like the work you
Like,
do. So, tell me more about that. I see that you manage some talents, some creative
yes.
talents, right? And you also work with brands. Because I'm thinking, okay, as someone listening to this who's thinking, oh, maybe I want to be brand strategist, or maybe I want to be a talent manager or work
Mm,
in this entertainment luxury space. Just tell us more
for sure.
about what your work entails.
Right. So with the yellow company, we do have two arms. One, like I said, services the corporate agencies or corporate businesses. Sometimes your corporate business is also an individual because we have people that do personal branding, but they're more like in the corporate space and not actual creatives. So what that looks like is we do everything from like strategy, marketing, and I do this across, like luxury business, lifestyle. One of our biggest clients actually is in real estate. So yeah, we do this tech. I mean, when it comes to tech, I didn't say I'm not a tech girl, but we do like PR for them, media relations, which is easy. I wouldn't say it's easy, but because we have those relationships, we can leverage. But it's not really a space that I would say that I play in. But the work that I do for a lot of like lifestyle brands. It's something I really enjoy. And I think it just comes from like also my 9 to 5s. Did some work for Armani Beauty. Like one thing I've come to identify, and like I said, is where experience comes into play. You sort of find the weak points of your industry or places that it's not so saturated that you can play in. And I think trend forecasting is very important. Looking at where your industry is going, what's going to be trending the next couple of years. Something that I've identified in the last couple of years is a lot of like international businesses and mostly like beauty, fragrance. They are like establishing in Nigeria. They're partnering with local retailers. So I'm seeing that it's not a lot right now, but it's going to be more because the spending power in Africa, like Nigeria is like the highest, third growing luxury market. So they are more going to come. So right now I'm positioning the agency to sort of be that link, right? For when these businesses come, we're able to do more. And also, like I said, being able to do more, we're able to do more than marketing or like PR. Whereas we have relationships with like local retailers. We can connect you to a retailer that can stock your products in their store. So yeah, that's the sort of work I'm trying to do with Yellow, really positioning myself for that luxury market. But also the businesses that we have here, homegrown businesses. I'm someone that loves fashion. Like I would say my first love is fashion really, and followed by music, but just, positioning ourselves for that and supporting the homegrown businesses that we have here as well. And with Yellow MGT, which is like the talent representation arm, it didn't start off like that. I didn't even think that I was going to be a talent manager. It wasn't something that came to my head at all. But I started working with this artist called UAX, one of Nigeria's top video directors, and we were working together for like a year on his like PR, on his brand. And one day he calls me up, he's like, "Oh, Kafi, I want you to manage me." I remember the first thing I said to him is, you know that I have no clue. I have no understanding of what it takes to be a talent manager. And it's like, I trust that you're going to figure it out. And like the trust that he had in me just sprung me into action. I was like, okay, what do talent managers do? And then I start to do that and understand, build those relationships within the industry and find that a lot of people want management. Like, so in the course of like managing this talent, obviously I would meet a number of people, although I didn't sign up anybody, but I would support with like advice, and just, started building that relationship with myself and also understanding the industry of, okay, talent management, what does that look like? Who does this? And I started to discover WME's Creative Arts Agency. Oh, wow, this is not new. There are agencies that represent talents. And it's not just your music artists or your actors. There was this podcast, Cutting Room Floor, is like one of my favorite podcasts, a fashion podcast. I
I
was
know
watching,
it. Well,
yeah, I love
it's so
so good. I watched one of her interviews with like a Wall Group founder, and I was like, oh, Wall Group, interesting, because I saw that they manage talents as well. So in doing that research, I found out that they don't even focus on like the headliners, like the top talents. They manage manicurists, they manage hairdressers. I was like, wow, interesting. So, just doing that, and it makes sense because if you're a creative and you're doing a lot of high level work and all of, you do need management outside of like taking your bookings, but building a business around your creativity, building a business around that, helping them build structure. So it's something that I was like, oh wow, there is an opportunity for me here. There is an opportunity for Yellow. I Disclaimer, I call myself queen of pivoting. Like, okay, this is what is going on. Like, this is gonna be a theme because although there are Nigerian agencies that do that, I think there's the Working Talent Agency. They do that with mostly like actors. Yeah, there's a lot of like modeling agencies, but I haven't really seen a talent management. I'm still honestly playing with the words, yeah. Talent management, talent representation company that really takes everybody into account, like managing photographers, like models, artists. Yeah. So just seeing the opportunity and wanting to grow my business in that line. So that's what Yellow MGT is trying to do with the creative economy, supporting them, identifying the value and exchanging that value, creating that commerce for them, creating businesses. Like, I want creatives to see themselves as mere creatives, but like a corporation. You are an entity. There's so much you can do with your talent. I want the hairdresser to know that she can partner with a L'Oreal and create her own hair care line, you know, just seeing themselves more than what like an Instagram post. But yeah, just trying to build that framework for creatives to establish themselves beyond like an individual and establishing themselves as a business, helping them manage that process, identifying their value, knowing how to exchange that value. Yeah, just very excited for the vision, really, because it hasn't fully formed, I would say, but I'm very excited. And a lot of people that I've been having those conversations with are also excited. They're like, oh wow, yes, I have needed this. And it's very validating. I'm taking it one step at a time. At the moment, we currently have just 3 talents signed. But
that's fine.
yeah, I also don't want to rush into it. Like, I'm someone that doesn't like to promise what I cannot deliver. I challenge myself. I know that I'm going to challenge myself to do the absolute most and best that I can. But I also don't like to sell a dream. And it's
Yeah,
also
but
yeah.
I like that you don't back down from a challenge. You don't shy away from a challenge. Because frankly, not everyone comes out of the womb knowing how to do certain things. Yes. So I mean, it's good that you had someone who trusted you to handle this, even though it's not something that you saw yourself doing, but you took the initiative to look up what it entailed. Yeah, you took initiative to find out what you need to do in order to do this thing. And it's also good because you now have flexibility because this person who came to you understands that maybe you might not, yeah, you might not have so much experience doing it, but they see that they trust you to be able to
Yeah.
deliver that. So it gives you flexibility to have a learning phase too. Have a learning curve, that sort of thing. I'm actually really excited to hear about that, about, talent representation. And especially when you referenced the interviewee from Cutting Room Floor, because creative economy is really expanding. I was listening to a podcast. I forgot what it's called. The creative something. And there was someone who came on the podcast talking about how he buys newsletters. Honestly, I still don't even understand it. Like, he invests in newsletters. I don't know what that means. I don't
Like,
know
he
what that means because
subscribes, I guess. No, I
yeah, but that's not even something that I ever imagined. And it actually shows how the creative economy is expanding so much. But I feel that we are still in this. we're still in the toddler phase.
Yeah.
Where it's like toddler is still learning how to walk, learning how to run, and even though we've made a lot of progress, we have the world looking over here. The world is interested in Afrobeat. The world is interested in Nollywood. The world is interested in Nigerian food. The world is interested in I'm a piano and all of that, but it still feels like we're not leveraging it as so much as we could. The world is interested in our fashion, but it feels like there's not enough structure to really capitalize on it, in the way that perhaps Korean K-pop, K-beauty and all of that, and like those kind of things are not happening in the vacuum. Those kind of things are not luck. They are not chance. It's structure. It's space. So I really like the idea of that because like the people need it. Even when you look at our influencer space, feels like a lot of people are just figuring things out on their own. And if they had more structure, I feel like they would succeed a lot more. I know that you're still in the early stages, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this grow into something much much bigger because we need it. Okay, so for someone coming into this field, whether it's marketing, brand management, or PR, what would your advice to them be? If they're trying to break in, or if they're trying to transition from another field, or perhaps when it's social media, trying to become a brand manager, what skills do they need to have? What sort of traits, character, dispositions, or predispositions do they need to have in order to thrive and to learn the rule in this field?
Right. I think there is a lot of skills, honestly, but the most important I would say is honestly your people skills, how you speak to people, because marketing comes is a lot of interactions, understanding people outside of, the soft skills, knowing how to write, how to communicate your words, how to create content. I know how to use all of these CapCut. I'm not great at it. Thank God I've passed that stage. But in the early years, I knew how to create content for social media. I knew how to write. Just thinking about like in whatever area that you want to work in, thinking about the skills that you need for, that. Are you trying to be a social media manager? Obviously, need to know how to create content. You need to know how to write your captions, your copywriting. Yeah, are you trying to be a creative director? You need to study the grades, understanding moods, also knowing the collaborators to work with, what sort of photographer can give you the type of aesthetic that you're looking for. Yeah, just understanding your industry, what what you need to thrive within whatever space that you're working in, and just be a self-starter. If you have an idea, I always tell myself like, what's the worst that could literally happen? Like the worst is getting a no, or you could also get a yes, but you never know. So taking those chances, putting yourself out there, asking the questions. There are no stupid questions. Only get smarter in process. Yeah, so reaching out to people that already do the things that you do, following them, you don't necessarily have to send them a message, but following and studying their own trajectory, how they collaborate with people, how they speak about their work, studying people. I study people a lot, just to understand, their own path, their own journeys, their own lessons as well. I try to listen to a lot of podcasts, fill my head with things that sometimes I listen to something like, I'm not sure how this is serving me, but it will serve you at some point. Like no knowledge is lost. Yeah, so open your mind, making sure that you're consuming the right sort of information within your industry or even adjacent to your industry. Because I like when you're in a situation and somebody's talking about something that is not necessarily within your role, but you have knowledge about it and you can't talk about it. Yeah, so expand your mind, I would say. Expand your mind. Look at people that also were at the stage that you are and share ideas with them. Attend community events. Like a lot of brands are putting a lot of energy into their community programs. There's a reason for that. It's not always just to have a drink or post on Instagram, but make sure that when you go there, you're having conversations, you're asking people questions about their work and, any concern that you might have as well. Just try. Just try. Every day when you wake up, try.
Yeah, it makes sense to really entrench yourself in, or like estimate yourself like, with all that stuff, especially when you mentioned listening to podcasts. I mean, in part, I started this podcast because my love for podcasts kind of reignited. 'Cause, I'm hard of hearing. So, in the past, I wasn't really interested in podcast because it's audio.
Right.
You realize, like late last year, the Apple Podcast has a transcript option, and so like that was such a game changer. Like it became my daily news. Really, I
And,
listen to podcasting in spouse that don't even concern me. I have finance podcast. I don't know what you're talking about most of the time, but it's just so interesting.
and you
I listen
find
to
that
some
you
history
use that
podcast. Yeah,
insight.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes I just follow my curiosity. Like you said, sometimes it might not always be something that helps with your work, but no knowledge that I've ever studied is going to come back in some way
Back
to
to
help
you,
you. In
yeah.
some way, it helps you to become well rounded. And I also remember when I started venturing into marketing, is to consume newsletters a lot. If I restarted a website that was really good, like when you're starting out as a marketer and you don't really know something and then you Google it and go to a website and they answer your question and I see they have a newsletter. I sign up. Like I was just really surrounding myself with all of that. I mean, it's good because it helps you with your skill, but it also kind of entrenches you in the community to know what opportunities are out there and think I lead to another thing because they might feature someone else on this newsletter, on this blog, on this podcast that sort of expands to other things, that might really, really help. So I think that's great advice. So I know that you worked on agency side and in-house, but from your own experience, would you recommend in-house with agency to someone who is starting out or seeing to go?
Honestly, I'm not sure that there's anyone that is better. I think that in whatever space that you find yourself, you can get the same skill, right? And but also depends on the company. Like if you worked for an FMCG, there are a lot of brands that they have under their belts. There are a lot of people that you can learn from, so many aspects to it. The same way an agency has different clients that you're working with, right? So I think it's really about what you want to do. I wouldn't say start off at the agency side or start off at the client side. I think that wherever you start, you can get the same or even better. It just depends on what industry that you're working in. Um, but I find that a lot of people like agency work because you can be working on multiple projects. But if you're working within a large corporation as well, you can still work, multiple projects. So I wouldn't say I
I
must
mean,
start at an agency or start like no, like just cast your net wide and yeah.
looking back on your own career, is there anything that you do differently with the benefit of hindsight now?
Honestly, no, I wouldn't because even the times that I failed, it taught me something. I know that if I'm presented with that opportunity or in that situation again, I'll do things differently. So I think that ups and downs are normal, right? So yeah, even if I did something differently, I would still meet another obstacle. So it's just like, it's okay. I'm happy where I am, and yeah, I just take the lessons and do the best I can with it.
Okay, I really enjoyed our talk today, despite all of the hiccups. I mean, we talked about being high agency and knowing how to take advantage of opportunities without, waiting for someone to, hold your hand, especially in internships, and how to really take advantage of those kind of opportunities if you're working at, if you're an intern who's not, being given tasks to do. And we talked about, having how to find a balance between marketing and sales, doing things that are really nice from a
Yeah,
marketing perspective, but also grounding that in things that move the needle, that move the baseline, so that you can have more
leverage.
effort with the people
Yeah.
you're working with, so they trust in you more, so they believe in you more, and you're not constantly trying to get them to take your advice on marketing wise.
Mm.
We talked about the creative industry, so many things about creative industry, about talent management, talent representation. We talked about trend forecasting and using that to find your niche. You also talked about finding loopholes, finding things that you can do better in order to, find how the best way to position yourself to potential clients. We also talked about, people who are trying to come into brand management, what they need to do if they want to grow, if they want to, build skill. And I enjoyed this conversation because everything was pretty much about not backing down from challenging. I feel like that's a theme from listening to your story. I mean, you can put it that you're shy. At some point you said, oh, okay, you're not really into tech, but then later on you mentioned, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not into tech, but I did this. That's a different thing. So I feel that that's a trait that people need to discover.
Cultivate,
Yeah,
really.
so I hope that people take that away from this conversation that we've had. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what you're going to be doing at the Yellow Company, and especially with Yellow Management too, and especially this whole talk about talent representation. I feel like I'm just going to be looking at people and telling them, do you know, I know someone who does talent representation. You should go.
I
I've
mean, I
heard
feel like
about that.
you
I've
should
not
also
unfortunately
consider
heard
our
you.
services. I feel
Oh
like
yeah. I mean, I should. I really should. I should. Okay.
be
So
ready to
so
have
I
that
really
conversation
had a
whenever
fab
you
time,
want.
and yeah. So you also, for anyone listening, Kafi, she's opening a mentorship slot for anyone who wants to learn more about brand management, who wants to learn more about the sector she works in. So we are going to share more about more details on social media. So please look out for more details. You can be found on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to link everything in the show notes so people can just click and be directed straight to your social media, book your pages and the Yellow Company's pages. Okay, so if you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word and tell us what you like about it on social media and tag us at what I do for work.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I do for work. I use the hashtag WIDFW podcast. Share it with your friends, share it with your mentees, share it with people interested in branding and brand management and serious people. And you can give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe, like, share, please spread the word. And if you'd like to be a guest or have suggestions for the podcast, fill the form that's linked in the show notes. So thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another inspiring conversation. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building. Thank
Yay!
you.